Lawhorn. I do orthopedic spinal surgery, and I've been practicing for about 8 years here in Dublin. I've been, coming here to the hospital since about almost 9 months or so, since the beginning of the year. Started coming to Fairview, and have enjoyed it immensely, and it's been a great community hospital to work in. I've been doing my normal things, but doing it here at the local hospital has been great. My background, I grew up in Columbus, Georgia. My parents are from there. They still live there. Went to up to the Northeast for college, went to Princeton for undergrad, and came back to here for Emory for medical school, and then went back up north for a residency in New York, and then did my fellowship in spine surgery in Chicago before coming home. And so my family kind of all over the state, but I'm mostly here on the eastern side of the state, here between Dublin and Savannah. I also go to Vidalia and Reidsville as well. This is a little talk I put together for a few weeks ago for it was actually a doctor meeting, but I think it's a good kind of introduction into common problems of the back and neck, and kind of explains things. And I think understanding kind of the common issues is as important as knowing what to do about it. It helps the patient, you or your friends or loved ones, kind of understand what's going on when you have certain sensations or feelings in your back or arm or neck or leg. So that's kind of how the talk is geared. Please feel free to ask questions as we go. If y'all have any questions so far?
If you could talk a little bit.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. I thought the microphone is just for recording, I guess. All right. Well, we'll get started. This was so this is kind of how I got into doing spine surgery. I was up in New York at the Hospital for Special Surgery. It's an orthopedic hospital up there, and I'd kind of gone into orthopedics. Gonna work on sports, knees and shoulders, that sort of thing. I was an athlete growing up, but I got into spine and problems of the spine, but mainly through this gentleman on the left, Dr. Bawachi, he's from Ghana, and he would do amazing reconstructive surgeries on people's spines, a lot of time on kids, and what I found doing orthopedics is that fixing someone's knee or shoulder, it's certainly worthwhile. It helps them improve their quality of life. But when you fix someone's back or their neck, I mean, you've given them their life back. I mean, if you have a back or neck problem, you're incapacitated. So I was fortunate enough to go to Africa with him and work on some kids in his homeland of Ghana. So that was a kind of an important experience for me as far as getting interested into spine. So back problems in general, that's kind of what we're going to talk, just kind of back and neck problems in general and kind of how they start. It's very common. I'd say in 80% of people in your lifetime, you're going to have back pain at some point. It's probably everybody here at some point's had a back problem. I certainly have. But most of the time, there's things you can do that treat conservatively. Most people don't need surgery on it, and we have a lot of options to treat back problems with non-surgical means. So some of the things on this little infographic you can see is degenerative discs or arthritis of the disc. You can have bulging discs, herniated discs. Usually kind of the problems associated with the back aren't so much with the bone. It's usually more with the space between the bone, which is the disc. You can certainly have broken bones, which we've had a couple here in the room, but the more common issues is where the two vertebrae meet each other at the joint, which in the back is called the disc. If you have degeneration of that disc, it really translates more to back pain. If the disc presses on a nerve, you get more leg pain, and that's kind of how, in general, you have some back pains and leg pains with back problems. I think it's important when we're talking about back and neck problems to understand you know, and they each affect the arms and the legs. Neck problems are going to pinch nerves, or neck discs are going to pinch nerves that go into your arms. You're going to have more arm pains. Back problems are going to pinch nerves that go into your legs. This is a cross section of a disc in the neck, and you can see coming off right by the disc is these nerves that go down the arms. In the back, you have nerves that go down the legs. And so as that disc becomes larger, either due to a herniation or just arthritis, it can pinch those nerves that go down the legs. If you get pinched in the middle of the canal here, where the spinal cord is, you can start getting balance or clumsiness, or even difficulty walking if it's in the back. So these symptoms are usually what gets someone into my office, more so than back pain or neck pain by itself. It's usually back pain or neck pain with arm pain, leg pain, balance problems. That's kind of what tips the scale from, say, just run-of-the-mill back problems to, okay, hey, I need to see somebody about this. So what's the difference between the neck and the back? Well, the main thing, I mean, there's certainly differences in the discs and the bones in the neck and the back. But the main thing between these two things is the neck has the spinal cord, which is a thick cable of cords, that connect your brain down to the rest of your body. Whereas the back, your spinal cord stops around this part, and in your lumbar spine, where your low back is, you don't have a cord anymore. You have nerve roots. So that inherently makes problems of the back, low back, less dangerous than problems of the neck. So as your spinal cord is here and up, you hear about, okay, am I going to be paralyzed with this back problem? And it's really very unlikely to have any kind of paralysis from a back problem. A neck problem, a neck injury, you can. And so those are the two differences functional between the neck and the back, is their orientation to the spinal cord. The part of the vertebrae that, I won't stay on this one, okay, that's in between the neck and the back. So the cervical spine is the neck, the lumbar spine is the back, is the thoracic spine. It's the part of the spine that's connected to the ribs. We're not going to talk about that very much. Typically, you don't really have problems with that very often. It's stabilized by the ribs, and really these vertebrae kind of move as one, so they don't have a lot of wear and tear. You can have fractures of the vertebrae, but typically degenerative problems, arthritic issues, are more exclusively in the neck and the low back.
Portions of this program are brought to you in part by Fairview Park Hospital, a leader in healthcare for Dublin, Lawrence, and surrounding communities, providing inpatient and outpatient surgery options and rehabilitation therapy services.
Choose the convenience of Neighbors Express and get friendly, courteous service every time you visit any of our convenient locations. Fill up with pay at the pump and take advantage of our bigger and better selection of beverages and tobacco products. And buy 12 packs of Pepsi products, 2 for $6.99. Enjoy the popular crushed ice with your favorite fountain drink. Also enjoy a fresh, hot breakfast. Stop by for lunch or dinner. It's always fresh, always convenient at Neighbors Express. Now located at I-16 and 441 and in Cedar Grove, providing farm fuel for all our customers. Count on the convenience of Neighbors Express.
Neck and back problems can cause arm and leg pains. And the reason is that those discs in the neck and the back bulge out and can pinch a nerve. And pinching of a nerve causes pain, and it can even cause weakness. Where you have the pain is based off which disc is bulging out. They have these maps of the body that generally tell you where your where your sensation is wired based off which disc is bulging out. These are called dermatomal maps. So you can see here, it's kind of a small picture, but let's say there's C6. It goes from your thumb up the side of your arm to your shoulder. If someone comes in the office and is having pain, from their neck down into their thumb, you can be pretty sure it's the C6 nerve root. So even before you do an MRI or a CAT scan or anything, we have kind of an idea of where the problem is. If they have pain in their neck down into the left thumb, you're thinking, okay, that's going to be a left C6 disc most likely. And so there's that. So how your symptoms are presenting can give you a clue as to what the underlying problem is. You don't necessarily know what it is pressing on the nerve, but you can kind of get an idea of which nerve is being pinched. So how does neck or back affect balance? We talked about balance a little bit earlier. And that has not to do with the nerve roots that are going down the arm, but the cord in the middle. If the cord has pressure on it, you don't have pain. You just have unsteadiness. In fact, oftentimes a patient will present with difficulty with their balance and not have any pain whatsoever. That is due to this pressure on the spinal cord. That you have to be careful for that, because it can present with someone who's painless, just having balance problems. And a lot of times your primary care doc might miss it, or you've seen quite a few people, can't quite figure out what's going on with this balance problem. It can be a disc in the neck causing that. How does back problems affect walking? Well, in the same sense, pinching of the nerves out the side can cause leg pain. If you pinch the nerves in the middle of the back, it causes difficulty walking, and it causes you to have to lean forward. The reason why is if you have pressure on the bundle of nerves in your back, if you lean forward, it opens up the canal and feels better. And that's why you'll see people with back problems start to lean forward or start to lean on something. I've seen people lean on a shopping cart as they go through the grocery store. Those are signs that there's pressure on the central part of the canal in your low back. Okay. So what causes this narrowing? Either in the neck or the back. What can cause there to be pressure? And there's really two things, right? And of course there's more than just two, but just to simplify it, 99% of the time it's two things. It's either a disc or it's bone. And the disc would be if there's like a herniation of a part of the cushion between the two vertebrae. Bone would be if there's arthritic bone spurs from the disc pressing on the nerve. I like to use food analogies and car analogies. Those are my favorite things to do in the office, because I feel everybody knows food, and everybody's the doctor to their own car. So I'll use those quite a bit. The discs you can think of as a jelly donut. Each one of those discs in between the vertebrae in your back, and there's kind of a harder rind and a gooey center. And if that gooey center kind of comes out of the jelly donut towards the nerves, that's what we call a disc herniation. And so, it's rarely the outer part of the disc called the annulus that's pushing on things. It's usually the part in the inside that shouldn't be there. Loss of that goo inside the middle of the disc is natural. It's going to happen to everybody as you get older. It just kind of wears out. But most of the time it doesn't necessarily bulge out towards the nerves. It can go out to the side or the front. If it does that, you wouldn't know it. You may not even feel it. But when it goes backwards towards the nerves, that's when you get pain down the legs, or if it's in the neck, down the arm. And so it's a little bit of just bad luck when someone presents with pinched nerves like that, because that disc could have just as easily gone out in a different direction. It just happened to be out towards the nerves. Same thing with the bone spurs in the back. This is kind of like a pipe in your kitchen or in your where you've been pouring grease down it over time. Starts out at normal, and it kind of gets more and more narrowed as that grease accumulates up. That's what you should kind of think about your spinal canal. But instead of grease, it's just arthritic bone spurs. Over time, they just kind of slowly build up on the sides until the canal gets tighter. You know, this kind of thing will happen over time. This will happen more acutely, you know, a disc problem. So those are the typical things that can cause symptoms of pinched nerves. You know, we've been talking about kind of the bony stenosis, and it's conceptually easier to understand how this kind of bony stenosis builds up if you kind of think about your hands. That's an evidence of arthritis right in your face. You know, over time. You know, when you're younger, you don't have as big of a joints here in the middle of your hand and your knuckles, and then, you know, in the transition, you can see my knuckles are getting a little bit bigger, and then this is kind of middle age, and then as you get older, they get larger, and so it just kind of naturally progresses over time. All your joints in your body are going to get a little bit bigger. You know, your knee will, your hip will, and you don't see them because they're under muscle and so on, but the hands you can see, and that's a good depiction of kind of what's going on in the small joints of your back. You know, too, those joints are getting a little bit bigger, and they're occupying space where nerves once were. So degenerative changes in your back can occupy space, push nerves a little bit, and cause these symptoms to come on. And this is kind of again that natural progression from normal to degenerative with these bone spurs. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to go into the treatment part. This was kind of a slide I used for the doctors, but basically neurosurgical orthopedic spine. What's the difference between the two? And I don't, you know, the bottom line is that, you know, go see somebody who has a fellowship training, and it doesn't really matter if it's orthopedic or neuro, but they need to have a fellowship training in spine surgery. When you go see a specialist, well, you know, it's not something that's you have to have like a, you know, be paralyzed with or something. It's just when your pain, your function, and your activities aren't where you would like them to be, you know, and you've tried some conservative treatments, you've tried anti-inflammatories, therapy, maybe seen your primary care for some recommendations, and it hasn't. Those things haven't kind of gotten you where you needed to be. That's when it's a good time to kind of have someone look at it, get an MRI. You know, like I said, most of the time I don't have to do anything major. We can just get an MRI, sit down, go over it with you, and come up with a game plan to getting you to feel better. You know, be it with shots or other conservative measures.
First Lawrence Bank invites you to experience banking at its best. Whether you have personal or business needs, we're a full-service bank big enough to handle all of your banking needs and small enough to provide you with that personal touch you've grown to expect from a community bank like First Lawrence Bank. Looking forward to your future. That's First Lawrence Bank in Dublin and Dexter. Member FDIC.
No matter who your team is on Friday night,
Let's go Crusaders! Go Irish! Go Falcons! Go Raiders!
your Chevy team that can't be beat is
Dublin Chevrolet!
pick a Tahoe or Suburban and score up to $7,000 off.
Dublin Chevrolet!
Girls, one more time.
Dublin Chevrolet! The only dealer you will ever need!
They know a winning team when they see one.
What is it dangerous? You know, I get that question a lot. You know, should I be worried? Do I need to do this? You know, I saw a person today. Had seen somebody had told me he has to have surgery or he's going to be paralyzed. Well, rapid symptomatic decline of neck and back problems is very rare, and so that's just not something that happens. You know, you don't have to be worried about, oh, if I put this off too long, am I going to be paralyzed? You know, if I just try to deal with this pain too long, is it too late to fix? That's just not the way this happens in the neck and the back. It's okay to be cautious with things and do the conservative things first and not rush into things. Therefore, conservative management is usually attempted first. You know, we don't just usually just put you right into something major. Once you start to have problems, as things slowly start to get worse over time, you shouldn't expect sudden, spontaneous resolution of it all. But with treatment, get things to a more manageable state, and that's kind of what we're shooting for in conservative things. Is to try to, hey, can I get you back to where you were 4 or 5 years ago when you were doing great? That should be the objective. It's not to get you back, to 100%. And that's managing expectations is important in what we do. Pain management. What is that? When did I do it? Etc. Well, pain management is something that you've seen your primary care doctor, you've seen the spine specialist, and then you probably need to try like an injection. That's what pain management is, really. They do the shots, the needles, the steroid injections. Is it safe? Yes, it's very safe. It's something that everybody should try before they do the next step, which is like surgery or even discussion of surgery. It shouldn't even come up until you've exhausted pain management. And a lot of times we'll do that with an anesthesiologist or a dedicated pain specialist. I would do it under the supervision of a spine specialist. I'd have them look at your studies and see what needs to be done, but say, look, you're going to be best off with a steroid shot. Let's go try these, with the doctor of your choosing or the place of your choosing, and see how much relief you can get. So pain management is very safe, and because as we talked about on the last slide, rapid symptomatic decline of back and neck problems is very rare. It's okay to try them. Catchphrase central. These are two things people always ask me about. Minimally invasive and what's laser spine. Have you guys heard about all that stuff? The laser spine institute. There's a lot of this one right here, but there's the second one I get asked about a lot. That's the one that's in like the Delta Sky magazines, and I got my credit card statement a couple weeks ago, and they had a Laser Spine Institute commercial on the top of my credit card statement. I'm like, how did that get there? But it's a laser spine is kind of a marketing catchphrase. What they're trying to say is it's a modern, futuristic, up and coming technology that we are only ones that do it. The truth be told, lasers have been around for a long time in spine surgery, and it does have some use, but it's really very small. It's like a very small subset of people. And it's like, it's not. They're not doing anything magic that no one else is doing in the country. It's more of like it's a marketing ploy, in which case they're using a laser probably 1 out of 100 cases. Minimally invasive, that's something that you probably should look for. This is something, where it can decrease your exposure to surgical time and incision and recovery. But the myth of that is that it drastically affects your outcome. It in the long term, it's the same as in any other surgery. It does minimize your short-term discomfort postoperatively. I use minimally invasive surgery. I've certainly used a spine laser when appropriately, but both of those things do get a little bit catchphrasy sometimes, and more used in marketing than actual practice. The summary is sort of some spine sort of take-home points, and is that bone it behaves very predictably. We know when you put bone in a certain position, it will do what it's supposed to do. Nerves can be unpredictable, and that's what sometimes, like with your shots, it worked sometimes it didn't. The nerves sometimes are unpredictable tissues, and you can't always predict. So that's why you have to do sometimes a series of shots to kind of get them to behave. And that's the patients here with neck and back problems. It's dealing with the nerves. It's not the bone or the disc. It's the nerve that causes you to have, some. You have to try a shot sometimes and then try another one because you might have better luck the second time. The goal of surgeries in general, in spine care and with shots and everything, is to make you much better, but not 21 again. You have to have realistic expectations, and that's as important as anything. It's just having realistic expectations of what we're going to do and be able to do. That's it.